Right, and we are back with the fourth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, I'm going to go ahead and go over the basketball rankings not the rankings, the basketball standings, the Olympic men's basketball standings to be a little bit more exact, because now that there's, a break until the next few set of games, the next games are going to be set to happen Friday and Saturday. I'm going to go ahead and talk about the standings and where they are right now and what it could mean for the future, things like that, and just what to expect. I'm just going to go ahead and break it all down in this fourth segment. So obviously, we're going to start with the Group A standings, which is Canada, Australia, Spain, and Greece. Now, I didn't have enough space to include the records, so I'm just going to go ahead and, put those records. I'm just going to go ahead and say those records, and you guys can see the point differential, and you guys can also see the names of the team. So that's just all fine and just all important. So I should have a graphic on Monday that is going to better display, the standings and things like that. So just be ready to wait for that. Now, those of you guys on the audio on the audio side of this, you guys aren't really going to care because you guys can't see what's on my screen, but that's besides the point. So for the Group A standings, it's looking like this. Canada's 1, Australia's 2, Spain is 3, and Greece is 4. So, Greece is eliminated. They are done. There is nothing they can do to make it past or even be considered to go into the Olympic tournament. There's nothing they can do. They're 0-2, and they have a point differential of minus 14. So, doesn't matter whether or not they win, or it doesn't matter whether or not they lose. They're not making it. It's over for them. That's it. Now, Australia and Spain, on the other hand, they still have a fighting chance. Now, Australia is 1-1, same with Spain, but the difference maker between these two is the fact that Australia has a point differential of +2, meanwhile Spain has a point differential of -5. So, because of that point differential, the team, the Canadian team, well, not really the Canadian team, excuse me, the Australian team is much higher in the rankings than the Spanish team. So it's all going to come down to the final game that they play and who has the better point differential and who ends up winning. That's what's going to decide it. Now, their next game, Australia's next game, is against Greece, which, gives them a huge advantage. Now, Spain's next game is against Canada, which gives them a huge disadvantage. Because the Canadian team is the number 1 team and the only team in the Group A standings that is flawless. They have yet to lose a single game in their standings, and they have a point differential of +17. So, if Spain has any hopes of qualifying, they would have to beat Canada and hope that Australia loses, right? Because then Australia, if they lose to Greece, they would have a 1-2 record, while Spain, if they were to beat Canada, they would have a 2-1 record. Or they would have to hope that they win they would have to still fight for the win. So, Spain, regardless, every single outcome they have to win. But it's what they expect from Australia that changes. So they either have to win and expect Australia to lose, and then they get in, or they win, but they have to win by a much higher point differential than Australia beats Greece, right? And that's going to be a really difficult task, because as of right now, Greece has been destroyed by every single team in this sort of standing, and it doesn't really seem like that trend is going to change, especially with the talent that Australia has. So it's not really looking good for Spain. So it would seem that Spain, the run for Spain, it might be over right here and right now. Next on the standings, or next group in the Group B is, this is the Group B standings. What is wrong with my English right now? The next group is Group B, and the standings look like this. Good Lord. Germany, France, Japan, and Brazil. Now, Japan and Brazil, they are 0-2. So they're basically, it's done for them. Like, there's nothing they can do to fix this. It's over for them, and that's it. Like, Japan and Brazil, they're eliminated, period, done. Especially, like, not because of, like, just because of the fact that they lost, right? That they lost every single game so far. But their point differential is just so much worse than, like, every single other team in this Group B standings. Like, this is arguably the easiest standing to determine what happens and what won't happen. So what's going to happen is Germany and France are going to advance. It doesn't matter whether or not Germany loses. It doesn't matter whether or not France loses. They're going to advance because they play the next game against each other. And they are both flawless. So they both have a 2-0 record. So it doesn't matter whether or not they lose or they win, they're still going to have more wins than either Japan or Brazil, who are going to play each other in the next game and who have the worst, point differential. So really nothing that needs to be talked about in this group standing right now because Germany and France have already clearly qualified. Like, there's just no contest. So next is the final group standings, which is Group C, the United States and Serbia and South Sudan and Puerto Rico. I should put the Avengers instead of the United States, honestly. But aside from that, the United States, they have the best point differential out of any team in the entire Olympics. And that is only going to get better after they play Puerto Rico. Yes, that is going to be their last game. And Puerto Rico arguably is the worst team in the entire standings, period. Like, if you were to rank all of these teams, like from Group A, Group B, and Group C, Puerto Rico would probably be all the way at the bottom of the list because of just how bad that they are. And, a minus 52 point differential. They lost the last game by, 40, which is, and they lost to Serbia, which really helped out Serbia's chances of making it all the way, right? So here's how the standings are looking for the Group C. United States clearly has advanced. They've advanced. Doesn't even matter what happens. Doesn't matter whether they win, whether they lose. That point differential is still going to put them in the top seed. And Puerto Rico is going to be eliminated. They're already eliminated, but they're just going to get absolutely destroyed by the United States. It's not going to look pretty. Now, the real important game in this standings is Serbia going up against South Sudan. Now, this is probably going to be the most competitive game in the entire standings period. Aside from in Group A, yeah, sure, maybe Spain against Canada is going to be pretty impressive, but even if Spain were to win, they would still most likely not make it to the tournament because they would have to focus on Australia losing. So it's not like they both can control their destiny by winning and playing against each other. This on the other hand, this group phase on the other hand, Serbia and South Sudan, they both have a legitimate chance to fight for their country to stay alive. This is essentially what the matchup is going to be. They're going to be fighting against each other to stay alive and to keep their country in the Olympics. That is what's at stake in this next game between Serbia and South Sudan. Now, it doesn't matter the point differential, and it doesn't matter that whole thing in this bracket right here and in this group standings doesn't matter. Point differential will not matter in the future because Serbia and South Sudan, they're going to go up against each other, and it would just be down to who is going to win because both of their records are 1-1 right now. The only loss that they've had was losing to the United States. And the only win that they have was beating Puerto Rico. So now they have to go up against each other and they fight for their country to stay alive, which is going to be an epic showdown. I'm very, very excited for this matchup, and I'm very excited to see just how much South Sudan has left in the tank. And if they can win it all, well, not if they can win it all, but if they can win this, the phasing, like in this group standings, like if they can beat Serbia in this, I think this is going to be nothing short of impressive for this team. And I think they would be very proud of where they got to, in this tournament. It doesn't matter whether or not they win. What matters is that they represent their country that used to not even exist before. And that's really what the goal is here. So very, very inspiring story. Let's see what happens in the next game, which is going to happen on Saturday, I believe. So be sure to tune into that. And with that out of the way, let's go ahead and go into a break and then after the break, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the fifth segment, which is going to be why Kobe Bryant has fallen short compared to MJ. Now, this was an opinion from a pretty famous NBA All-Star, ex-NBA All-Star, ex-NBA player, whatever you want to call it. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about that in the fifth segment and my thoughts on both of those players right after this short break. So be sure to stay tuned.